Boys, do I have a video for you today? You see why most YouTubers are going on about how the Bully Boys and the Green Tide attachment are like the greatest attachments in the Ork Codex right now, why Ghazghkull's making a return, while the Mega Knobs are like the most busted unit in the Codex right now, how Warbosses and Mega Armor is fantastic, the boys have sticky objectives, oh wow, going on about how the Ork Codex is probably like amazing in 10th edition right now, and how we're seeing a lot of competitive meta-based spotlight for the Orks, and we're finally getting a lot of attention as an army right now. That's awesome, but there's so many videos talking about the exact way to run Mega Knobs, how to run Warboss correctly, how to do Big Mech and Mega Armor, how to use Ghazghkull with 4 not 5 and or 3 not 2, and all these videos going on about basically just the copy and paste competitive Ork niche. But I wanted to go into a little bit of a different topic for today's video. I didn't want to make the copy and paste video of how to run Bully Boys amazingly and how to do all things competitive Orks now that we're finally actually doing well in the meta. I wanted to do a interesting kind of video. I wanted to make a video on how to run the worst Ork models in our codex right now, because honestly some of these units have seen a huge drop in popularity, like literally from 10 to 1, and I want to basically just talk about them, why they're bad, why they dropped off so fast, how we can actually implement them in a list and make them good again in terms of being a viable Ork unit, because ultimately the dream of an Ork player is to be able to basically run almost any unit competitively. Obviously that's never going to happen, but as close as we can get to it is our dream. So today I'm going to talk about some of the worst Ork models we've seen, or some of the worst drop-offs we've seen, and how we can actually use these models incredibly well in certain detachments to actually pop off and get these models back on the board. So let's talk about it right now. No more time wasting, no more blubbering on, no more competitive Bully Boys videos. Let's jump straight into it with our very first model. Very first model is going to be Mozog Scrapbag. Mozog Scrapbag was the top dog. He was the biggest and the baddest, and he was making Ghazghkull jealous. But now, he's basically just a side profile. Ghazghkull's finally taking the top reign again, being able to give the Mega Knobs like the most broken buffs in the game, and is being outshined by Beast Boss on Squig. You see, if you don't understand, basically what happened to these sad Squig riders, the Squig characters, was that in the Ork Codex release, they got nerfed, and nerfed hard. They were taken down in toughness, wounds, and they generally lost an enhanced ability. And they were put on the Squig boys, and you might think, oh wow, Squig boys, they're amazing, but sadly, they went up by 35 points each, and lost the ability to get the -1 to wound from the Knob on Smasher Squig, making them actually not so usable anymore. So the only way you can run them is basically on Squig, because suddenly they're not tough enough to be taken alone anymore, and the Squig aren't even that good. And the problem with Mozog is that his ability is just inherently worse than Beast Boss on Squig. Beast Boss on Squig ability is simply the ability to give the Squig boys the +1 to charge, and Mozog's is fight on death on 4 up. Now, neither of those are horrible, but it's clear to say that one is better than the other. So right now, Mozog is just being looked down upon and not too well. And the only way of running him is in a niche situation in the hunt, because let's be real, Squig are already an investment in themselves. So suddenly, this guy's not seeing any rain anymore. He's not seeing the continuous must-take anymore, because he's either being outshined by the Beast Boss and Squig in any other detachment, like the Hunt, or Bully Boys, or he's just generally not being taken because people don't want to spend a hefty amount of points on something that is just inherently worse. Well, not in terms of like just general worse, but for leading Squig worse than Beast Boss and Squig. So they're only Beast Boss and Squig to be taken to Bully Boys, and this guy, hard to find. So yeah, and plus along with that, he can't take enhancements because he's an epic hero. Now before, that didn't really matter because most of the enhancements in the Waaagh tribe weren't even that good. Well, they were good, but didn't infect Mozog at all, and he was just good by himself. But now, having no Glory Hog, having no ability to get that +1 to damage, having no ability to get Slurries for Squig into Hunt, and no abilities besides the Warboss keyword in Bully Boys, I don't know, he's just inherently worse now than Beast Boss on Squig. No enhancements. I don't know. The only thing you're looking at him is with damage and the plus stuff you get to him. So all this is sad. You're not seeing you in a 6-man Squig boss unless you're going full in on Squig boys with the Hunt, which in itself is not competitive at all. This is a competitive video. So how do we use Mozog? How are we bring him back? How are we taking him back? how we revamp them. Basically, my theory was you run 2 small squads of squigs, 4 mans, into hunt detachment, and use them as less killer units, but more as bounty hunting units. As you could see before in one of my past videos, I talked about how Zagstruck and 10 Stormboys were actually a fantastic bounty hunter unit, being a fast, mobile unit that could zip around the board, do tons of damage with power claws, and actually be extremely helpful for a reroll charge roll when coming in from strategic reserve. Now, Zagstruck is gone, so suddenly the Stormboy combo doesn't really work as efficiently as well. But having Mozog be able to fight on death, and along with Beast Boss, you could inherently basically trade in both their abilities for a smaller Squig Hog unit. Now, you might think, oh wow, but that's like the entire purpose of Squig Hogs is the hunt. You want Squig Hogs in the hunt, but honestly, you're more oriented towards Beast Snaggers anyway. So, if you're thinking you're going to be less killy because of the large Squig Hog ones, trust me, you're not, because you're already taking like 3 squads of Beast Snagger boys with Beast Boss. So, yeah, ultimately, you're not giving up much killing. Honestly, these guys become more of an efficient movement-based unit to do bounty hunting tasks and generally push up on an objective than being a solely based killer unit just to do rampant amounts of damage, because that's what the Beast Boss and Beast Snagger boys are for. So keep in mind that honestly, running 2 squads of small Squiggle boys, 4 each, one with Beast Boss and Squiggle and one with Mozog Scrapbag, isn't a horrible thought. You can use both of their inherently actually good damage dealing and abilities to a benefit without having to go full out on like the 300 point model of Squig boys. But that's Mozog. Basically, you want to run 2 small squads of Squig boys, use them more as bounty hunting and efficient objective control units than solely out killing units hunting down the prey into hunt detachment. Honestly, I don't really think you're going to see him much in Bully Boys, because he's just too many points for you to take 2 Beast Boss and Squiggle basically over him. So basically, how you run him: the hunt, 2 squads, 1 Beast Boss and Squiggle, 1 Mozog Scrapbag, and 4 each. Because honestly, you're not going for the full 8, otherwise you're going to have run out of points for everything else that actually is better. Now, what is next on the list? Flash kits. Oh my god, flash kits were broken. They were the biggest damage deals in Orcs physically possible, and now, they suck because Badrock is gone, along with Zagstruck. So many combos ruined by the freaking, they've just been taken out because of all the freaking characters being removed. But hey, it's what it is. We make new combinations, that's how we grow as people. Now, these were in order of includes. Everyone had Badrock and Flash kits. Everyone. There wasn't a competitive Orc list without it. But suddenly, Badrock being gone, wow. And you might think, oh well, Flash kits are still good. You know, they get lethal hits and they get these sustain hits and they get the 4 attacks to the closest. But trust me, that reroll, the free reroll was like literally the complete game changer for them. Suddenly without them, trust me, I've used them, they just don't become good. And it really sucks to see. The damage output is nowhere where they used to be. And I honestly think that we are just not going to see bricks of 10 anymore. We're not seeing bricks of 10 because it's just too many points. Even them being 80 now, it's just too many points to want to take these guys with kind of want damage. And honestly, the only way you would want to take them would be if they could be led by some kind of mech to benefit from the shooting buffs. But suddenly they can't because their only leader was Badrock. So it's kind of hard to want to take them. But there is a way to run them. You see, them being 80 points now, a 5-man screen clearing unit, suddenly isn't bad. Originally, that was for the Burner Boys. Burner Boys' purpose solely was to be a screen killer. But with these guys decently, still okay damage output, you could take them as a screen killer very effectively. Load them up in a battle wagon, load them up in a truck, have them on foot, coming in from strategic reserve, mainly more in a transport or a Morkanaut or a Gorkanaut, or any kind of transport-based unit in any detachment like Green Tide, or depending on what you're running, and use them as a screen clearing unit. Use their lethal hits as an ability to screen and kill the screening-based units. Use them as a fantastic way of destroying these kind of low toughness based units, so you don't have to waste any more. And them being like a lot better shooting than Burner Boys, they're just an efficient based unit, and 80 points makes them want to be takeable. So honestly, if you want to run flash kits, no more 10 mans. You're running them in 5 mans in a battle wagon for a very effective screen kill, because these guys are like amazing bug exterminators. I'm calling them bug exterminators because obviously they're screen killers. Not too tough, killing those small weak units. So amazing bug exterminators. I love them for that reason. So if you want a good screen clearing unit, you want a good unit to hop out, just take on these weaker units, destroy the, Termagants or Hormagaunt squads, come in there, do some extra damage. These guys are great. 5 mans still work, so don't throw your flash kits out yet. You can still take them. You just need to know when to use them in the right transport at the right time. and strategic reserve can work too. But who is next on the list? Now, killer cans. Killer cans have never really been amazing, and they still aren't. Even though there's a whole detachment oriented around them, literally built in for their purpose, they're still not good, and it's sad. So ultimately, it's bad. You see, the Dread Mob detachment is solely oriented around shooting, heavily into shooting. They want you to take shooting, they want you to take it right now. But you see, the sad part about the Killer Can's ability is that every time they shoot, they have the potential to do D6 mortal wounds to the unit, which means you don't understand. That's each time the unit shoots. That means you really only want to going to be shooting with them once. You cannot single target units. You cannot single shoot them, because as soon as this unit shoots, suddenly that's one test you have to roll for D6 mortal wounds, which will kill a killer can if you get above 3. So I'm just saying, it's already hard. And along with them having hazardous on some other weapons, you're doubling up on hazardous as it is. Oh wait, no, sorry, they don't have hazardous. Take that back. My bad. That's a different one. Already a spoiler for that. Limit. So basically, they just don't work. Really, they want them to take shooting, and ultimately, you take shooting, you take the hazardous test, you take the ability to potentially get 66 mortal wounds for ultimately nothing. The best gun is like D3 damage, 3 damage for like AP 3 or something. Like, it's ultimately not even that good. You're taking shooting for a not good purpose. So ultimately, Killer Can's whole reason of shooting and being a shooting based unit in Dread Mob just doesn't work. No one's taking them, because if you want to take a 6-man, it's so expensive, and slowly doing killing damage to you with the shooting already sucks. And it being solely oriented around shooting, it's really hard to find a way to make them work. But they still can. Even though they suck at shooting, they're still good at one other thing. You see, the Dread Mob army rule basically says that you have to roll something and blah blah blah. I've said this 100 times on my channel before, but it's for shooting and fighting. Meaning, you could run these guys with canned claws, send them up, have a fantastic melee unit that has no chance of dying, because there are that. The only way you run these guys, in my opinion personally, is with like 2 guns, like maybe 2 Grotzukas, the rest are canned claws. 3, 4 if you're feeling lucky, you want to take canned claws. You want to take the melee damage weapons, because that is what you really are going to be affecting with. You want to have these melee based unit who's not going to kill themselves and is going to be able to run up the board and do tons of damage, because these guys can work. Not coming in from strat reserve, just on foot, starting in a deployment zone, running up the board. I don't think that you could really get a better damage dealing unit. Obviously, it's hard because you have these really hard to move units through terrain. That's why Dread Mob isn't doing too well right now. But running a melee Killer Can Claw can work effectively. So don't give up on these guys too yet. All you have to do is fit them out with claws, and trust me, it will work. You can still take shooting with them. You can still do all that stuff. Personally, I just don't think it's going to work, because it's just really hard to get around that. Like, I will kill you in an instant if you've missed this shot. So ultimately, looking for melee. Other than melee, it's hard to run. Now, last one's going to be Big Mech. This guy came out bad, and he's staying bad. He's just like Warboy. He came out, he sucked, and continued to suck to this day. This guy is just not good. Everything he does is inherently worse than the regular Mech, and he's like double the points. So, I just don't understand why he's like him. Basically, his ability is weird. It doesn't even serve a huge purpose in the game. It's basically just you can move through enemies, move through terrain, and you can re-roll advance rolls, which, okay, is fine, but it doesn't inherently have a purpose when you can lead knobs, looters, and like, I think burnable, I feel like it. But the point is, like, the squads he can lead don't really benefit so hugely from that, and it just doesn't really become much of an effect. Sure, it can work, but ultimately, it just doesn't really benefit much. And sure, you get the reroll hit roll of 1 like all the mechs do, but I don't know, his whole ability is based on movement when there's a shooting based attachment. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. You want movement for units that are going to be able to get into melee or get good positioning, and ultimately there's not much he can take that goes with that. And plus, his gun his gun, the only good one, there's two variants, and the good one has hazardous, meaning if you do any kind of shooting and you take the hazardous, because you'll take the hazardous test. There's no way you're rolling for rank. You'll take the hazardous test. You're doubling up, meaning you now roll it on a 1 or 2, meaning he will slowly kill himself if he basically shoots his gun, which sucks. It sucks so bad. His ability doesn't really make sense, and he's better melee than shooting, even though he's kind of a whole dread mob attachment. So, I don't know, you're just not really seeing this guy much action, solely because he's just hard to take. He's hard to have a purpose with. But there is a way you can take him. It's going to be the redeploying looter strat. You see, you can use him actually okay to redeploy looters. Looter's whole purpose in the game is ultimately to have that redeploy. If you are taking looters, you want to have a clear view of the objective marker. So they're using this guy in a truck, having that advanced reroll actually doesn't really sound that bad and can actually work okay, because you're going to be taking at least one squad of looters, because looters are just really good right now, and flash kits being just bleh, and if you're aiming for a big shooting unit, looters are taking the top spot in that position. So that's the only way you're going to really be taking him, having looters in a truck, maybe a Gorkanaut, potentially on foot, but more up the board, redeploying so you can have a consistent amount of view of the objective marker, gain that reroll hit roll, scaring the enemy off, having so much potential overlooking on that objective that it just scares the enemy off, and you're allowed to hold that point so effectively. Works in the strategic reserve as well. They gain the Mech keyword. This guy's the Mech keyword, so the looters will gain that ability to be able to get that lethal hits or whatever. Hazardous test, yeah, whatever. You've got a bunch of guns firing in there, who really cares? But ultimately, that's not even a good combo as it is. This guy just kind of sucks full stop, and it's hard to use him. But looters can still work. That's going to be it, boys. That's it. This is how we use the trash orc units in the codex right now. Now, the reason I didn't do War Boy or Tank Busters or any like the inherently bad units is because they're inherently bad. Full stop. They can't really be used unless GW does some reworking or does some intense points decreasing. But like we've seen with the buggies, the more you decrease the points, ultimately it doesn't get better. Their rules still suck. But that's going to be my full video today. Hope you enjoyed me analyzing each individual basically bad unit and how you can use it. If you have any objections, and have any bad thoughts, I'm wrong here, you can't do this, blah blah blah, leave it in the comments like you guys always do. I appreciate it so much. Feedback is amazing, and I will catch you in the next one. Do the cool YouTube stuff, make the algorithm like me.